Hello and welcome to PeachFuzz, Lakepoint Sports and Prep Baseball, Georgia's high school baseball podcast. I'm Grayson Rosen, joined by Hudson Graham and Ian Smith from Prep Baseball Georgia. And how are you guys doing? We just had a lot going on. The Final Four is wrapping up, I guess, because we still don't have a final team to play North Cobb Christian just yet in 2A, but everybody else wrapped up. What'd you guys see this week? How'd it go? All that.
It was good. We actually got to catch a game together last night. We got to go see Cherokee Bluff and Holy Innocence. And then we sent another guy over to Brookwood and Grayson for that game. So that was fun. Atmosphere was really, really good at Cherokee Bluff. Ian was there early getting us some spots, and I went to sit down. And about the second I turned around, and it's like just waves of people just filed in, chair after chair, line after line. So it was a really fun atmosphere, big student section. That's always cool to see. So definitely a good game to kind of get the state championships rolling this week. So really excited for those.
Fantastic. How was the Final Four for you, Ian?
It was good, man. I saw some exciting baseball, some good environments like Hudson mentioned last night at Cherokee Bluff. And again, a really good environment at Stars Mill this past weekend on Saturday, which was a fun one there against a big opponent in North Oconee. So that was good. Then Friday night was good as well. So another good matchup again with some exciting baseball, some back and forth, some big home runs. So it was good to get out there. Final Four has been fun. The playoffs overall have been great. It's been good to see a lot of different teams that I didn't get to see early in the spring. So it's been nice, and just glad to get to these state championships this weekend, which should be quite an adventure for all of us.
Definitely. It has been quite a long spring of baseball to get to this point, and now we're just a few days away from that championship game. But first, let's kind of go a little bit in depth on you guys' Final Four games you went to. And Hudson, we'll start with you, and we'll start all the way down in 1A, Division I, Prince Avenue Christian versus Crawford County.
Yeah, Prince Avenue. I got a chance to see them early in the year against Kings Ridge. 1-0 game. They ended up stealing from them. But yeah, they had a Crawford County team that was super interesting. Actually, just pretty much impressive with 10 guys in uniforms. Like truly 10 players lined up for the national anthem. A couple guys hurt, so they were a 10-man squad in the Final Four. Obviously in the 1A division, but still super impressive. Prince Ave got out to the early lead in game one. Judson Hartwell had a big backside home run. Georgia Tech commit future gamer for us last year. Had a really big swing there. Dylan White, an infielder for him, a sophomore, they kind of fought his way into the lineup kind of midway through the year. It was a guy that we saw in the fall on our campus tour series, and he had 2 hits on the day. I was really impressed with him. Looked much more physical, looked super comfortable in the box. So Prince Avenue got out to the early lead in game one and kind of didn't look back. They ended up, putting it on pretty good in game one. But I knew Crawford County had Andrew Hammock, Kennesaw State commit junior, coming for him in game two, who's been pretty much lights out all year. Two-way guy for him, had 3 barrels to pretty much the wall in game one, all caught, but got to start on game two. And he was essentially lights out for the most part. Carried a CG through, or a shutout through 6 2/3. So ended up giving up 1 run, but just really impressive out of him. He's been up to 90 this spring. Was mid to upper 80s. You could tell he's thrown a lot of innings. I think that was probably innings like 70-ish for him. So lots of innings for him. Really liked him a lot. First time seeing him this spring. Saw him a lot in the summer with SEB Prime, a team that plays with us a lot at Lakepoint. But yeah, really like them. Mikhail Harris, junior, uncommitted kid, had a big home run for him, no doubter. Got a cool little video of it. So that was a big momentum shift for him. And then Prince Avenue kind of took care of business in game 3. Crawford County just kind of ran out of steam. But like I said, really impressed with them. Congrats to them on a great season, especially with 11 guys against a stacked Prince Avenue team that still had really talented guys sitting in the dugout.
Yeah, that's great. And, they obviously, Prince Avenue Christian advances. They go on to the championship game to play Tula Falls, which Ian caught this week. But let's talk about the 2A matchup that you went to, Rockmart versus North Cobb Christian.
Yeah, so that was one of our other guys we sent over there on Saturday while we were all out and about. But really exciting games there. Asher Sabom got the start on the mound for him. And was a bit shaky off of his normal lights out stuff, but he actually came up with a big home run to kind of bounce back from the first inning for him. So that was good to see from him, obviously helping himself out. Game 2, or North Cap Christian took care of business game 1. Game 2, I believe Trey Luke got the start, sophomore left-handed pitcher for him, who's a guy that we really like. He's thrown a lot of innings, had a really good year for Rockmart this year. But yeah, that he kept him in it till the end. They had a runner on second, 2 outs, bottom of the 7th, down by a run, and he actually hits a ball backside that I guess hit off the top of the fence and actually bounced back into play, and they threw the runner out at home for the final out to get the sweep 2-0. Bit of controversy going on with that game. I've seen some stuff on social media here and there. They're saying it might have hit off the power line potentially and bounced back into came back into play. Obviously tough scenario there. It'd be great if we had 10 camera angles everywhere. We could go back and review that stuff. I know everybody says that at Lakepoint, but
yeah, we had that actually happen this weekend with the 13U championship game.
I got to see that too. Yeah. So it's just not feasible in youth baseball. Yeah. As great as it would be, it'll probably cause more harm than good, honestly. But obviously, really, really tough situation for everybody in the moment. You don't really know what it's like until you're the umpire making that call, or you're the player hitting that ball, or you're the team on the losing end. So tough all the way around, but really successful season for Rockmart. Getting the winning the region from Model, super competitive all year. Nayland Holsey had a couple of hits that game, who's been a guy that we've seen a lot over the years. But yeah, North Cobb Christian swept that one, like you mentioned, waiting on an opponent in that championship game.
Yeah, they'll play the winner of Mount Perrin and Appling County. That game going to be played Wednesday night this week. So they'll see who they get to play down at Georgia Southern. And Ian, let's go into your games, though, and we'll start with that 1A Division I matchup in Kings Ridge versus Tula Falls.
Yeah, it was an exciting matchup, man. I was out at American Legion Field in Alpharetta, which is, I think, maybe the biggest high school field in the state of Georgia. It's 345 down the lines, which is absurd. Something I haven't seen this spring anywhere across the state. And it was a surprising a good amount of power in a field like that was shown. It started off with a freshman outfielder, Taylor Markakis, obviously the son of Nick Markakis, former Braves legend. And the big league bloodline stood out instantly, man. He hit a massive pull side homer in the second inning for his first career high school homer, and it came in the state semifinals, which is also awesome to see. He's fired up. The team was fired up. Really got the whole squad juiced up early. Another huge home run from one of our favorite 2026s in first baseman Chip Lagorski, a guy we've really grown to love as he came to a bunch of events. We fell in love last summer and last fall as well, and he's really stood out this spring as a member of my all-sophomore team. And he hit one of the biggest home runs I've seen all spring. He matched playing on a fastball that was at his eyes, and it hit about 400-plus pull side over 2 sets of trees down the line, and it was about as much of a no-doubter as I've seen in a while. Another big home run from Luke Hill, a senior shortstop for them, one of the few seniors on this team for North Cobb, but for Kings Ridge Christian as well. A team that's really just deep all the way throughout the lineup. Another guy, Marcus Ward, a 2026 outfielder who we've seen before with Georgia Jackets, can really run, hit a triple over the right fielder's head, was around the bases in sub 12 seconds from home to third, which is flying. Added a sub 4-1 infield single later in the game, which is something you just don't see that often with sophomore bats. So that's a carrying tool you can have going down the line with a plus run tool like that. And on the other side with Tula Falls, this is one of the more interesting teams I've seen in a while, with a lot of transplant players from guys from out of the country, with a couple of Bahamian players batting in the top of the lineup. But committed 2025 outfielder for Tula Falls, who bats at the top of the lineup for them. A bunch of bat speed, loves to go backside pretty often in back. Caught a huge barrel down the line for RBI. It's got a 1,200 OPS so far this spring, and something that we're interested in seeing a little bit more this summer as an uncommitted 2025, as we're kind of identifying some of those guys as we look to lock up those commitments going forward. And the huge standout of the day for this game was Ashton Roche, uncommitted 2026 third baseman for them. It was some of the best bat speed I've seen in any class this spring. It's potentially plus right now. He hit one of the biggest home runs of the game, down 1 in the 7th inning, and he hit a ball as hard as he could hit it about through the scoreboard in left center field at, as I mentioned, Legion Field, which is about 370 in left center, and it could have won about 400 carry. Followed it up in the game 2 with a 3-run homer to lead a 6-run inning early and really give them all the confidence in the world to take these 2 games from Kingsbury and Christian. That was pretty surprising to see. And now Tula moves on to a state championship berth, like we just mentioned, against Prince Ave Christian.
Gotcha. Yeah, it sounds like a lot going on there, and
it was more than enough.
And then we've got another game here in 4A, Stars Mill versus North Oconee.
Yeah, we're talking about a lot going on. There was a lot going on in this one. Game 1 was 12-8, back and forth matchup. We had 5 Stars Mills bats go deep in this game. It started with Max Prosny at the top, a 2024 second baseman who's dual committed to Virginia to play football as well. He's their top bat at the top of the lineup. He took a 2-strike ball off the building in left center field over the wall for a leadoff homer to start the game. Ended up going 3 for 3 with another barrel and 3 RBIs on day. Scored 3 runs, stole 2 bases, did a little bit of everything for the Stars Mill team, and just carried on from after that. Batting in the 2-hole, Heath Whitlock, a Mississippi State commit, hit a home run as well. Drew Richardson, a Middle Tennessee State commit, hit a big grand slam in game 2 on a 9-run inning that really just put them over the top overall in this game. The bats there's not an easy out in the Stars Mills lineup. We've talked about it a bunch so far in this podcast this year. I've mentioned Stars Mill having one of the best lineups in the state, and it really showed up on Saturday. I think every bat in their lineup had an extra base hit on the day, which is something you really don't see that often, and especially in the state semifinals. They came out to hit. They were hitting every pitcher that North Oconee threw at them. And talk about pitching a little bit. In game 1, Stars Mill had to go in kind of a bullpen game with Whitlock coming out after 2 innings, which is something that they weren't looking to do in that game. They got 4 big innings out of Brock Rain, highly ranked 2026 from us, a Georgia commit who I didn't know even pitched that often, but came out and threw 4 big innings for them, working on a little heavy combo of turbo sinkers and changeups, which is a pretty advanced mix for somebody like that. The sinker had a ton of run on it with up to 89, living in the high 80s as well. And changeup at 77-80 had this parachute-like tumble action that was pretty unhittable. He was throwing it in any count, and he picked up 5 quick strikeouts for them and really looked locked in on the mound. And he's somebody I think they're going to look forward to as they move on to a tough matchup with Cherokee Bluff in the state championship to give them big innings again.
Yeah, Stars Mills offense has been phenomenal throughout this playoff run, putting up double digits in all but one game, and they still won that game 4-1 over Heritage Catholic. But yeah, Stars Mills has been killing it, and then you also got to go out together to the other 4A semifinal game, which was Cherokee Bluff versus Holy Innocence.
Yeah, good one to see. That was the first time we got to cover a game together that wasn't at Lakepoint this spring, so it was good to do that. We had to close it out strong. Like Hudson mentioned, the environment was great. We split out open sides and just try to get looks at some guys that we haven't seen a lot of this year. Got a good barrel from Zach Jackson, a 2024 outfielder. Heading to Duke, I almost said Georgia Tech, so I mentioned that. Georgia Tech so much this spring, but heading to Duke, really good outfielder for them, batting at the top of the lineup, fast bat through the zone, can really match playing well, shows some power, can run as well, and has pitched some really huge innings for them as well on the mound. As teams are looking for pitching almost everywhere this spring, it seems like you have a lot of guys that aren't natural arms that are throwing 1 innings right now. It gets 60, 70, 80 innings on the year. So it's been impressive to see what they've been doing at Holy Innocence, and it was just good to see that team for the first time this spring.
Yeah, what about yourself, Hudson? What kind of did you see from that game?
Holy Innocence, they were one that I got to see last year in the state playoffs. Really similar team from last year. So I've been trying to get to see them this spring, just didn't get the chance. But I like some of their young guys. Taylor Fuller leads off for them. Then you have Amari Griffin. I think he was in the 5 or 6 hole playing right field. He had a couple big time throws to home on some fly balls with guys trying to tag up, and just really, really strong throws. Obviously, upper 80s lefty on the mound, freshman. He's our number 2 ranked 2027 right now, number 3 maybe. So he's definitely going to be one to follow as they move forward. Matt Louise is another one having a big year for him. I believe he was batting in the 3 hole last night. But yeah, Ty Corbin came up with a big swing in game 1, the only game in game 3, but came up with a big swing, no doubt bomb that really set the tone for that game. So he's been one that I've really liked this spring. He actually had a home run in the Seconder series that I was at when I was seeing them as well. So just really athletic center fielder, a lot of pop. But yeah, other than that, they had wasn't the most exciting game in the world. I believe it ended up being 5-1, 4-1. KT Thompson. Yeah, KT Thompson had a good barrel in the first, kind of tone setter for them. So they got a tall task in Stars Mill coming up here this weekend. But I think that they got to get good starts out of their arms. They have the arms that can do it. They're starting to find their groove at the right time. Jacob Vocal through game 3 last night for them. Davidson commit, big, just, two-way guy for them. So they have the pieces to put it together, but obviously that Stars Mill lineups is pretty high powered. So that'll be a fun matchup. Cherokee Bluff, furthest they've made it. They were kind of exited early last year after a really incredible season. I believe they were like 22-0 at one point. So they made it to the Sweet 16 last year. A lot of the same returners. So they're eager to try to get the job done this weekend.
Awesome. Well, we have a couple other kind of big games that happened that we didn't get a chance to have too many people at. Calvary Day versus Mary Persons. How we'll start it off. How'd that one go?
Yeah, so that one went 3 games. Mary Persons was a team that I got to see in the first round. And I really liked the lineup. They had some righties on the mound and Cole Carr being their one. And then they had a couple other guys that they could piece together a strong 3-game series. So that was a game that I really wanted to go see, but, Calvary Day down in Savannah, quite the haul to get down there. But 3 really good games. Calvary Day kind of blew them out in game 2. But there's a lefty sophomore, Quinn Johnson, for Calvary Day that I'm really interested to see coming up here this, Friday at Rome. Really excited to go see him. He's had some really good games late in the season, especially in the playoffs. So that's one that I believe had a little velo jump in this spring. Mid-80s lefty, sophomore, always excited to see. So really good, strong season for Mary Persons as well. Furthest they've made it in school history. Brady Chrisman, I think, ended up getting Player of the Year for that region. So, really accessible season to them. Excited to see this Calvary Day Harlem matchup. Harlem took care of business against Oconee County. Still rolling. We talked about them early in the year when they were 22-0, and it seems like they're, probably 30-something-0 at this point. So see if they can repeat, but I think Calvary Day looks like they've got some guys to, see if they can combat that Harlem offense.
Definitely. And then next big game that happened in the 6A playoffs, Pope versus Houston County. That was a huge matchup, and Pope takes that one.
Definitely.
Yeah, man.
Ian,
Pope knows how to win. Go ahead, Buddy. Yeah, Pope knows how to win, man.
Yeah, no, I was just saying repeat state championship from last year. So this Pope team, like Ian just said, they know how to win. Dawson Jones, that was kind of the key for them, I think. We were talking about this a little bit, but that was the biggest key for them in that game, was that they had to have their lefty senior Dawson Jones game 1. They had to get that game because Pope had Ethan Garrett coming in game 2, who's been pretty much lights out in the playoffs. So that was kind of the story there. John Stutzer, is leading this Pope team back to the state championship. So we'll see what they got against EDWA. Like I said, they're going to have this same senior leadership, I think, against EDWA. So that's going to be, I think the most exciting game in this whole and out of all the state championships.
All right. And then Ian, what'd you have to say for Pope and Houston County?
Oh, not much there. I just how do you touch on it much? I was going to touch on Ethan Garrett throwing game 2. That's somebody who's really been a future gamer last summer and just made huge strides this spring overall, and just continues to throw better baseballs. The velocity continues to come. He's throwing 4 pitches, and I think just having him game 2 behind somebody like Dawson Jones is pretty huge going into a state championship playoff against one of the better teams in the state in Etowah.
Gotcha. And then let's talk Loganville versus Kell, a big matchup as well.
Same thing, Loganville. Just they know how to win games.
Back to back, going back again. Can you
at Georgia Dugout Club early in the year, I think that they would say the same thing that we're saying. They definitely wasn't the most talented teams they've had in the past few years. But once you get to the playoffs, we obviously had the classification rankings that were coming out before the end of the season, but those were the rankings of those teams currently within the regular season, right? So, once you get to the playoffs and the way these brackets shakes out, like we've said, it's a whole new season. And I think Pope and Loganville, I think they, were pretty much the epitome of that. Kell, too. that's Kell's run that they made was really, really impressive. But Loganville is just like I'd said before, I went to that place and played in the Sweet 16, and they're probably one of the most kind of electric atmospheres in the Georgia high school baseball space. It's a tough place to play at. So credit to them for what they're doing. Tucker Seeger, senior, I'm sure he's just bulldogging his way through these teams. He's a righty, mid-80s guy on the mound, but he's going to compete. And once you get into the playoffs, that's really all you need is arms that are going to compete. Because these lineups, we know all these lineups can get it done. Jake Boland stepped up really big for him, sophomore pitcher for him. I believe he's been throwing game 2. So yeah, we'll see what happens in that one. But kudos to Loganville for the run that they've made. Coming off of a record-wise mediocre season for them.
Definitely. And then speaking of great runs, you have Grayson versus Brookwood, and Grayson on quite the run themselves.
Yeah, Ian's got that one. He saw them, but nothing.
To say there's not too much to say about the team is tough to say, but outside of the top 3 for Grayson, I don't really know how they're winning all these games. They lead by 2 uncommitted 2025s, and Alex Espinosa and Landon Arroyos on the left side of the infield, who are both pitching huge innings for them as well. Batting in the 3 hole is a guy who was on my all-sophomore team as well, and Brennan Woodard, who started the year on JV, ended up the year batting .435 for them as well, and leading the team in almost every offensive category. And those 3 guys have been leading force for them. Woodard has pitched huge innings for them as well, over 60 innings. And outside of those 3 guys, they've been carrying the team. JD Smith has came up with 2 huge hits in game 3 of both these last 2 series against Walton to win 4-3, and last night against Brookwood to put them up 4-3 for the deciding factor as well. So they're getting timely hits. They're playing fantastic defense. They're getting teams to ground into as many double plays as I've seen any team produce this playoffs. They're not making simple mistakes. Like I said, they're getting timely hits. Quality pitching from guys you're not expecting quality innings from, and they continue to win. Playing with house money is something I've mentioned a lot, and I think that's definitely what they're playing with right now. They know how to win in these huge games. They've beat teams. They came from the hardest region in baseball, playing against Parkview throughout the regular season as well, and other tough teams like Brookwood. So they know how to beat these teams at the top, and to face a team like Lowndes going forward is going to be a tough task. But it's been fun to see what they've been doing, and I'm excited to see what the Rams can do in the state championship.
Definitely. It's been a very exciting run all the way up to this point, and we've got some extremely exciting matchups here in these state championship games. And let's start kind of talking about those games with the 1A Division I championship. We kind of mentioned this matchup already, but Prince Avenue Christian versus Tula Falls, that's going to be played down at J.L. Clements Stadium in Georgia Southern.
This one's definitely a really cool one. One thing to mention on Tula Falls is they're coached by Justin Pollock, who is a, 13, 14-year college coach. So he's got the experience. He won 2 national championships at Toccoa Falls, where he was there 10 years. He actually recruited me out of high school. So they're really well coached. They steal a lot of bases. I think Prince Avenue has the catchers to kind of combat that, but I still think that, stealing nearly, 200 bags on the year is really impressive from them. So I'm anxious to see this game. Coach Osborne, I believe, at Prince Ave, obviously well-respected coach within the state of Georgia. So that's going to be a really big coaching matchup. We haven't really mentioned any of those, but I will say that obviously super talented teams. But at this point, small things that can be controlled by the coach could end up winning these guys a state championship. So Prince Avenue's coming to defend Tula Falls, coming off of a huge year. That they kind of got the gauntlet in the bracket with Pepperell and then Kings Ridge, 2 of the top ranked 1A teams pretty much all year. So impressive run that they've gotten on. Ashton Roach is heating up at the right time. Chase Pollock is another one that's been a consistent bat for them, also on the mound. So they'll be a good matchup for Prince Avenue, I think. I think Prince Avenue, they actually had one of their shortstops kind of hurt his hand, I believe, right before that game I was at on Friday. So that was kind of a big blow for them. But they have Will Goff and Dylan White up the middle, which is, probably one of the best, middle infields in the state. So they'll be in good shape. Got Judson Hartwell over at first. Mason Banks will be their big arm for them. So that'll be a really good matchup. I don't think we'll get down there to see that, but I'll definitely be in tune with it, seeing what happens.
Gotcha. Well, let's go ahead and
I just want to touch one more
yeah.
thing on Tula Falls before we move on. This is their last chance to win a state championship. They're leaving GHSA after this
Oh,
season,
wow.
so I think that's something that that's gonna be weighing on their mind pretty heavy, and that's gonna give them some extra motivation heading into a huge matchup like this.
Yeah, that's definitely a big factor for them. So check that one out down at Georgia Southern, and then as well down there in Statesboro, the 1A Division II championship game, Charlton County versus Lanier County. Not two teams that we've been too familiar with throughout this year, but what do you guys have kind of looking into that one?
One thing I will say, just Lanier County, just coming off of a 3-game series against, Shealy County, which was one of the top teams coming in. They actually got the only bye in the entire GHSA. So they got some fresh arms, and Lanier County beat them in 3 games. Then they followed that up with beating Bowden, who was a team that we got to see. And I knew Bowden was solid just because we obviously got to see them. So that'll be a good matchup, Charlton versus Lanier. So that'll be down there at Georgia Southern as well. So we'll definitely keep an eye on what happens in that 1A Division II game.
All right, and then your final game down there in Statesboro, the 2A championship, North Cobb Christian between the winner of Mount Perrin and Appling County. We don't quite know yet, and we won't until Wednesday night. But what can you guys speak to, at least with North Cobb Christian, about their run to this point and what they can bring in the state championship?
Yeah, they've been getting the quality hitting at the top of the lineup. It starts with Michael Molinex and Asher Sabam, the two 2024 Georgia commits. They've been the top of the lineup all year and bringing what they can do with their hits and power as well. And they've got a lot of freshman production for this team. JD Arthurdide and Carson Bruce, who've become huge in the playoff run for them. They've been seeing a lot of playing time. Austin Tambora as well as 3 freshmen that are seeing huge run for a team that a lot of freshmen aren't going to see playing time on a team like this. That's always in the state championship, always making runs, and possibly playing a team like Mount Perrin, who they've seen this year already twice and beaten twice, could be huge for this North Cobb Christian team if that's the matchup they have going forward.
Gotcha. And then let's go to the games now at the Rome Emperor Stadium. That is going to be the 3A championship, Calvary Day versus Harlem. Definitely some teams we've kind of talked about this season. We already mentioned Harlem's amazing season that they've had up to this point. How does this one look for you guys?
I'm probably most excited for this one, honestly, going to get to see 2 teams I haven't seen all year. I always get excited going to see guys we don't always get to see. I wish we would have got down to see Harlem earlier, but just the craziness of everything, didn't get the chance to. But I think this is a good matchup. Just looking at Calvary Day and what they're kind of bringing to the table, I think it's a good matchup. Harlem may or may not have Will Holder not throwing for them, which is a Georgia Southern commit junior for them. That's kind of their number 1 guy. They beat Pickens those 2 games back in the Elite 8, I guess, and then Oconee County in the Final 4. So we'll see about that. I haven't heard exactly if he's in or out. That'll be a big guy for him. But from what I've heard, they're just really well coached, and they play together as a team. Just really put together ball club. Obviously, won a state championship last year. You got to be put together towards the end of the year to make this run. Because there's a lot of games for these kids. If you're playing up until this point, you're playing probably 40, 50 games nearly. So we'll see. We're excited to get to Rome to see that game. Like I mentioned, Calvary Day's got some guys I'm excited to see. So looking forward to that one.
Yeah, and then as well up in Rome, the 4A championship, Cherokee Bluff versus Stars Mill. We talked about last week how good of a Final Four we have. This is the culmination of it, and it seems like a great matchup.
Yeah, I think this is one we've been alluding to as been a collision course since we started talking about the playoffs. These were 2 of the best teams in 4A throughout the year, and now we're seeing them in the biggest matchup. This is Cherokee Bluff's first chance at a state championship, and they're going up against one of the best lineups in the state. I think it's a really good matchup. If Cherokee Bluff, like we mentioned before, gets the pitching they need at the top, I think they have a slightly more pitching than Stars Mills does overall. I think that's going to be a big factor. I think the lineup for Cherokee Bluff can be comparable when they're on to the Stars Mill lineup as well, which is huge for them. They can score 15 runs whenever they want as well. So I think it could be either a high scoring matchup or we get some quality pitching when it matters from these teams. And I think it's going to be a back and forth battle that could possibly go 3 games. And I think that's all we can ask for, in a state championship matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw Arm finish the game out last night. Jack Sparks, Piedmont commit, senior for him. What was he? Probably 6'3", 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah.
Really strong looking kid. That was, look, we didn't get back there. The student section was crazy trying to get velo and stuff, but he was throwing the ball really well. So I know they got him coming out of the pen. They got Logan Robinson, who was a kid I got to see against Seconder, who's a low 80s righty, but he's going to compete in the zone. And I've mentioned that before. Just guys that compete in the zone is what you need at this point in the year. They're obviously going to rely on their lineup to get through these games, both teams. So I think that if one team gets a big shutout win or gets a guy that gets rolling on the mound, I think that's going to be the big momentum swing for these guys. Because playing at Gwinnett, there's not going to be a whole lot of balls leave the yard. Last year we mentioned like John Stetzer would have had 2 home runs anywhere in the state. But he hit 2 balls to the wall at the Gwinnett Striper Stadium. It was like pushing 400 in dead center. So they're going to have to pitch. A lot of these strike throwers, I think it benefits them. I would have loved pitching at Gwinnett, get those fly ball outs. So that'll be a really exciting one that I think, could go either way. Like Ian mentioned, two really high-powered offenses going at each other.
Got it. And then we'll go up into 5A, where we start the games up at Coolray Field down in Gwinnett, and it starts with the 5A championship, Loganville versus Carterville.
Yeah, on Thursday. This is the first Thursday games of the week. I'll be at Gwinnett all week long, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, just trying to make one with Coolray Stadium this weekend. But it's going to be an exciting matchup. This is for Loganville's looking to go back to back for a three-peat against a Carterville team that's as well balanced as you'll find in 5A. Having Ryan Johnson back at the top of that rotation for them is going to be huge going in this matchup. He's going to win. He can win a game against any lineup in the state when he's on. That's a 5-pitch mix. The last start I saw him throw against, I believe it was Locust Grove, was the best I've seen him pitch. 11 strikeouts, 18 whiffs, filled up the zone with all 5 pitches. And an outing like that will be huge against a team like Loganville, who knows how to win, like we've mentioned a bunch, plays the game the right way, plays small ball. And that's something that Carterville doesn't really do. Not a small ball team, but they know how to hit. So if they can continue to hit like they have at the top of the lineup with guys like Luke Miller, Caleb Daniel, who we talked about a ton, Andrew Purdy, Aiden Larkin, Cole Crawford, the list goes on at the top of this lineup for them. And if the bats show up with the pitching they have, like I mentioned, Johnson and Sawyer Wilson, who's just coming off a 6-inning no-hitter in the last round against Ware County as they make their way to the state championship. If they can get that pitching with the lineup they have, I think this is a chance for Carterville to win their first state championship in over 10 years.
Got it. And then over in 6A, we've got Pope versus EDWA. You guys already kind of talked about this matchup happening. That one's at Coolray Field as well.
Yeah, I got my stadiums mixed up talking about Bluff and Stars Mill, but Rome's still pretty big too. I don't think it's as big, but I think that'll play a factor in all these state championship games. But yeah, EDWA, kind of the 3-headed dragon coming in with Sharman, Angelakos, and Caleb Hughes. I think that Pope's, they can hit fastballs. They're known to hit, velo. So I think they do that really well. So we'll see. I'm assuming EDWA will go Sharman game 1. Ian, you think?
Yeah, I mean, coming off 3 straight complete games in the playoffs with 10 Ks apiece, I think he's the guy you got to lean on at this moment. He looks like he wants the ball at a time like this. I think you can lean on a sophomore in that moment. It's pretty huge.
Yeah, and I know that Dawson Jones is going to be excited to get the ball too. He didn't have the best start last year, so I know he's going to be eager to get back on that mound and get a little redemption for his senior year before he heads off to Augusta. But yeah, Pope's they've had a couple young guys step up in the lineup too, and Luke Wimbush, right? Ian, yeah. He's been swinging it really well, and then they got a couple seniors that that aren't, I don't think are going to play college ball, but they're really just really good teammates and wanting to finish this thing out on top. So EDWA hasn't been scoring a ton of runs in the playoffs, but obviously they're pitching, they're giving up 0, 1, 2 runs each game, so they don't have to score a lot. Caden Borgerding seems like hitting a double every game, it appears. So he had a home run down at Tift, right? So he's heating up. That's a big guy in their lineup for them to kind of piece everything together with Deion Cole and Trevor Condon and Sharman two-way, and then they got the seniors, kind of the speedy seniors, and Bryce Adams and Jake Zanin So excited to see that one. Other than the other one we talked about, definitely be an exciting 6A matchup.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's the best I'm looking forward to out of all the playoffs is this 6A matchup. I mean, Pope knows how to win 9 straight Final Fours. EDWA, the team I've talked about more than anybody. So it needs to be the one for me. So I'm excited to see that one on Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be
and I think
a
the
big
environment
one.
might be quite electric. So.
Oh yeah. And let's get into the 7A one, the top division of high school baseball, the last year of 7A for now, as it's going away at the end of this year. Grayson versus Lowndes for the championship.
I think it's pretty clear cut. Lowndes is the better team. Grayson's on a hot run. Who knows what can happen? I think that's what you say at this point. I know Lowndes has the most impressive lineup in the state, I would say, after Ian went down to see him. He can touch on that, but that's kind of my take on it. Lowndes, best lineup in the state, two of the best starters in the state, going up against the team at top. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much the same way. I have a feeling this series is either going to go 3 games and be highly competitive, or Lowndes might just turn it on real early and make this uncompetitive. I think there's really no in between in this series. Yeah. I think that's what we're looking for. Noah Thigpen has thrown back-to-back really good starts for Lowndes. Troy Committ at the top of the rotation, and behind that, Matthew Kerrigan again with both of those pitchers coming off back-to-back outings where they've really pitched well. Especially last weekend or this week against a North Paulding team that was as hot as anybody in the state. They came down there. North Paulding came down there and got absolutely throttled by this Lowndes team. They scored 19 runs and I think 13 innings or something like that. They hit really well. They pitched well. They're again extremely deep lineup. I mentioned Stars Mill, but this Lowndes team has an even better lineup than that. It starts with Tate Sermons at the top, Coleman Lewis, and Tula, who I really fell in love with when I went down and saw them a few weeks ago. And I think this is just going to be. It's going to be one or the other. I don't really know what we're going to see. Lowndes might come in having too much of confidence against a team like Grayson, think they're going to win, and Grayson's coming in with a ton of confidence themselves. So I think it's going to be one fun matchup in 7A with the last year 7A going out the window after this.
Yeah, there's a lot to look for.
One big thing to look out for, I think, is Lowndes throwing strikes. I think if Lowndes comes out throwing strikes, which Thigpen and Kerrigan, are 2 big strike throwers. So, I don't expect, that to be the case. But I think that if Lowndes comes out and throws strikes and makes Grayson beat them, but same thing, like big field, like obviously the long ball's not going to get them. Like it's going to depend on, Lowndes' placement in the field. Like Grayson's getting a bunch of these, kind of softer hits that fall, especially in a bigger outfield. So never know. Like Ian said, one or the other. I think you kind of hit on the head.
It's gotta be interesting, man.
Yeah,
totally interesting.
I wouldn't want to play. I would have. I think I would rather play Brookwood, especially with the Grayson team rolling like this.
You're getting with them. Brookwood. Grayson, you have no idea. No idea.
Yeah, you never know. There's definitely been some, like obviously Loganville and Pope. Like we didn't have them teed up to be in the state finals in game 1, but. Obviously, they've been in that position before, but like obviously Grayson, it's like Grayson's in the region. What they finished 3rd or 4th in the region?
Yeah. 3rd, I believe.
Yeah, 3rd. So like that's awesome. Number 3 seed making the run at it. Yeah, 3rd seed. They take down Richmond Hill, East Coweta, and then they take down the 2 big dogs in Walton and Brookwood. So Lowndes is number 3. Let's see if they can do it. So.
All right. Yeah, there is a lot to look forward to. Starting up Thursday, going all the way through Saturday, correct? No games on Sunday?
I don't believe
so. Okay. So, yeah, everything should be wrapped up. And it's going to be an exciting one. And you definitely got to check those games out. So just a reminder, both your 1A divisions at Georgia Southern as well as 2A, and then 3A and 4A up in Rome at the Rome Emperors Stadium, and then 5A, 6A, and 7A all at Coolray Field. We've obviously got a ton of stuff going on. You guys will be out at those games. Ian, you said you're going to Gwinnett. Hudson, did you say you're going to Rome?
Yeah, I'll definitely go to Rome.
Friday.
What's that? Friday the 17th for Calvary Day in Harlem. So I'll definitely be there. And then I guess Bluff and Stars Mills on the same day, I guess, right after. So I'll probably be over there for that one as well, I guess. And then Other than that, we'll see. I definitely want to go see EDWA and Pope. So we'll probably double up that one with some coverage. And then we got some other guys mixed in that'll be helping us out as well. So, but yeah, I'll definitely be over at Rome for that Calvary Day matchup.
Fantastic. Yeah, there's quite a lot to look out for. So obviously make sure you guys are following these guys and following the Prep Baseball Georgia account so you can get the updates, see all the guys and all these huge moments. This is the biggest stage you can get in Georgia high school baseball. But for now, let's kind of talk about what's going on kind of coming up. This weekend, while that's going on, we've still got some baseball going on at Lakepoint to check out. We got Southeast Super Select, a 23-team field. And this is actually our last weekend, kind of before that summer season begins. We start getting some of the high school guys up there starting next weekend with the state games of Georgia. That's kind of your first chance of the spring going into the summer to see the 15, 16, 17U guys up there at Lakepoint. So a lot of stuff to look for up here at Lakepoint, big weekends. And what's going on the prep baseball side, obviously, other than getting out to these championship games?
No, like you mentioned, we'll get started Memorial Day weekend with state games. A lot of good in-state teams coming typically that weekend. And then we'll roll right into the showdown, which we usually see a few more out-of-states mixed in. And then kind of the gauntlet, as we call it, with top prospect games, June 4th and 5th. That event's pretty much sold out. We got some pitcher spots left. So we need some arms for that. Obviously, everybody's got busy seasons going on, but it'll just be 2 innings, no more than 30 pitches, kind of a bullpen with a lot of college coaches there. Typically, we have 15 to 25 there every year. Tons of commits came from that event last year. And then after that, we'll roll straight into NPI, which is probably the best tournament in the country through and through. Teams bring their 15, 16U, and 17U from the same program, and they kind of duke it out for that, the best program in the nation. So that one's always really exciting. We get some good representation from Georgia teams. 643 will be in the mix, East Cobb Astros. So a lot of good teams there. Obviously, we're pulling for our Georgia guys in that one just so we can, represent. But a lot of these guys not many of these other states play high school baseball up until mid-May. These guys are going to roll straight into this thing. So yeah, excited for the summer to get kicked off. Ian's first big summer here. Kudos to him. I think he's tallied up 121 games this spring. So he had a few days in there where he got 4 or 5 in a day.
Yeah,
at this point.
We doubled up on a couple days, but
yeah,
we made it happen.
Hats off to him. I know this was kind of his idea, getting this podcast rolling. So been cool to talk about. All the players obviously got started a little late in the season, but been to a lot of games myself. I'm probably in that, 60-ish, 75-ish mark. And then we got another guy that's probably in the 50s. So saw, probably at least over 250 games this year, probably. So it's been a fun year to cover. Definitely made a lot of headway with the 25s, 26s, and then building that 2027 list of freshmen moving into the summer. So ready to get the summer kicked off. Last week of high school ball here. And yeah, we'll wrap it up with some state championships and roll straight into the summer.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. A lot of baseball to be watched up here at Lakepoint, all across the state. So make sure you guys are checking that out. Make sure you guys are checking out all of our social media accounts. Obviously, Lakepoint's going to be covering everything going on this summer, as well as the guys over there on Prep Baseball Georgia. So make sure you check them out as well. Make sure you subscribe here so you can keep up with everything we're doing. Obviously, a lot more coverage to come. It's not just going to end with the high school baseball season. We got plenty to talk about once it gets into the summer. So those next couple of weeks, kind of getting that started as well. So a lot to look forward to here. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're liking, commenting, and turn on those post notifications here on YouTube. And thank you guys for joining me today. Thank you for all watching. And we'll catch you guys next week with some state championships. And thank you.